Hey, how's it going? I've had a chance to watch your video quite a few times here, and I got a couple notes for you and a couple things just to watch for in general. Overall, your driving's really good, and a couple things that are kind of just gonna be a little nitpicky that I think will gain you some time, and then we'll talk about some stuff just in general. Overall, pretty good lap that you sent in here. There's only a couple corners that I can see any differences or anywhere that I'm like, okay, that'll probably be worth some time, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Let's just get started right here from the get-go, heading into the last corner, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we come back to it. So looks like you do a really good job on the brakes all the way around the entire lap. Uh, turn one is one of the biggest spots that I could see a little potential to gain time just by thinking about driving the car a little bit differently. And so out of the last corner, we're leading on to a really long straightaway. And then on the exit of this corner, we also lead on to a really long straightaway. So the two most important things are carrying speed down the front straight, braking as deep as possible, but then also really getting a good exit off the corner, because the next straightaway is just as important. So the least important part is the center of the corner. So right here, this is the least important part of the corner or of the track. It's probably the easiest place to get wrong, but the two most important things are the long straightaway and the long straightaway leading off of it. So what are we going to compromise? Are we going to try to roll as much speed as possible in here to make up for losing maybe some speed down the next straightaway? We'd have to roll a ton of speed in to ever make that up. It's talking about 50 feet versus 3,000 feet down the next straightaway. So it's a little farther. So we can hear, you still get a good throttle application, but anything that we can do to get back to that throttle a little bit sooner is going to net us more lap time and easily. It's just going to be, you're going to be able to go faster down the next straightaway, and you're just going to rack up the miles. So let's take a look at that again. Coming down, trailing the brake in. So what I would try, rather than tire squealing and coming through here, park the car. Anything you can do to get it turned. But right here, the car is pointing down track, and you can quickly unwind your hands and just drive to the exit. It's going to be worth time, because anytime you have so much real estate or track to make up any time lost here in the center, that it's gonna be a significant amount of time. Rolling the speed into the corner and giving up a little bit of the exit, you'd have to roll so much more speed, and it's basically virtually impossible to go faster. So let's take one more look at it, because this is the biggest corner. Coming in. So I like the way I see the car reacting on the turn-in. It doesn't seem like you're moving too quickly. Nice slow turn-in, but my recommendation is park it in the center. So it's like slow. It's easy to turn. You can hold a tighter radius, which means you're going to be able to unwind your hands and go back to the throttle a little sooner. So I would do anything I can to get the car turned by this point. So now I'm just driving the car off and like quickly to full throttle. Since it's such a long straightaway, getting back to full throttle is really going to, and you're from such a low speed, 60K, that being able to go back to full throttle, the car is going to accelerate incredibly rapidly. So you're going to have that acceleration from the get-go, and it's going to be a big chunk of time right from the corner, and anything you lose in the center, and you don't have to like completely stop it, but slow it down enough. So the kind of the rule is by apex of that corner, you can put your foot back on the gas pedal and quickly add throttle back to full throttle and get a good clean drive off the corner. Okay. Heading down here, I really like the way you drive this next section. It looks really, really good. The only thing I might add through there, so I like the way you really drive the entry, but if I hear a whole lot of play with the throttle, you can see the corner's quite cambered. So really just, you're a talented driver, so just focus on rolling that speed in any of your throttle inputs. Keep them as subtle as possible. Any quick stabbing of the throttle, you're going to get too much of a weight shift and you're just going to start scrubbing speed. You can use the throttle to move weight around, just try to do it more gradually. The smoother you do everything, and if you're having to do big throttle inputs in the middle of the corner, might mean there's a little wiggle room to roll a little bit more speed, and you show that you can drive quite well. So just rethink your mind into, okay, if I'm really picking up the throttle in the center trying to maintain my speed, maybe I could have just rolled a little bit more in there and then just being smooth off the brakes and then really focus on getting a good exit. Let's take one more look at it and we'll go all the way through this time. Good. I like the way you diamond it off, carrying the speed in, turning it in a tight radius. So, again, like I said, this is nitpicky stuff, but it's just some fine tuning that might net you a little bit of lap time. It might take a little bit of practice because you're already pretty close to the limit as it is in most spots. That I like. That's kind of exactly what I want to hear. And going back to turn one, right by apex, here in the throttle, you're keeping it nice and tight, which means you're going to be able to open your hands quicker on the exit here. So that was a perfect, like that was pretty good. That was a perfect corner right there. And that's what I'd like to see more of back in turn one. And I do believe that will be, if you reshape that, that'll be worth a good chunk of time just because of how significantly long that next straightaway is. Again, really good corner, not much to change there. You rolled great entry speed, throttle application to keep it was nice and smooth. And that's exactly what I want to see. You can see you're balancing the car on the rear tires. Not a whole lot to change there. Good corner. By apex. Breathe off. That weight transfer. Again, good. Very good. You're using the throttle to help turn the car. The more you can do that smoothly, the more and more lap time you can get. And it's all just about getting the car pointed, and it looks like you do a very good job of that. And again, you're carrying pretty good speed into the corner. This might be one, it would have to take some playing with it and just seeing what seems to be faster. If you have good data, I would try driving this corner a couple different ways, and they may come out to be in a complete wash. One might be a little faster. Carrying 98. If there's anything you can do to roll a little bit less speed but get back to the throttle earlier, since it's such a long straightaway, it's probably going to be worth some time. But I do hear a good throttle application, just if you can ramp it up, like sacrifice a few K on entry to be able to go back to full throttle easier, a little sooner, it's probably going to be worth a little bit of lap time. And so one thing I always do when I'm driving a new track is the first thing I do, and this might be a good way to experiment with this, like say a new car, new track, I go out and I go slow. The only thing I focus on is how early can I roll back to full throttle and get a good clean drive off the corner with not too much excitement. And then once I establish that, I have my basis for how much speed I can roll into the corner, how deep I can brake. But if I know if I'm ever hurting my throttle pickup point, or it's harder to go back to throttle as early as I was doing before, that I'm not gaining any lap time, because the straightaways are what's most important. Overall, it looks like you do a really good job of that. There's just a couple nitpicky areas where you kind of want to try hard and you want to carry speed in the corner, and it just doesn't net you anything on lap time. So a couple things to try. Again, on this corner, yeah, it looks pretty nitpicky. You look like you got a really good drive off the corner. But if sacrificing a few K on entry allows you to roll back to throttle a little quicker, back to full throttle, and still get a good clean drive off like you did, it's probably going to be worth some lap time. So that's something to always keep in mind. Again, this stuff is kind of nitpicky. You're obviously a very good driver. You know this track very, very well. But those are kind of my inputs and what I can kind of see. And that's what I would probably try to do differently if I were there. Well, I hope this was helpful. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask away. Thanks. Bye.